Oh, alright. Race Spec. Stream. Live. Audio. Yeah, it's working as it should. So the stream's up, the chat's up, we're all good to go. That is fantastic. Shouldn't have to wait long. Should have a pretty packed house for tonight. We've had in almost every week of this Pacific Tier 1 drivers Pacific Tier 1 Championship. It's been great. All the drivers have been showing up pretty frequently. Very good. Who are we missing? Missing a Ferrari? That'll be Plebs. Don't think Plebs is absent. And a McLaren. Not sure who that might be. Hang on. And he's going with spicy salami as well, instead of Seb Spicer. Alright. Very well. Go back to spicy. At least for tonight. Oh yeah, Stevenson, of course. He's not racing tonight, neither is Rockford. So we've got, let's see, we got Dada. Oh, ready up signal has been given. Alright. So we do have a few reserves then competing with us tonight. Yeah, there's 2 seats available. Deno, if you can get in touch with either Bags or Plebs, I'd assume you'd be able to get in. Got time to join through qualifying if that's still allowed. I'm pretty sure it is. But you'll have to take it up with them. Hello everyone and welcome to round 10 of the Pacific Tier 1 Championship here on Race Spec Esports. I'm Everingham, your commentator for this event, and for tonight we'll be competing at Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Imola, as it's more commonly known, was constructed all the way back in 1953 and would host its first official Formula One round 27 years later in 1980. It's often regarded as one of the most historically significant racetracks in motorsport, with many iconic moments, both triumphant and tragic, happening right here. The 19 corners of Imola create a track that is 4.9 kilometers long and consists of a single DRS zone that heads down the main straight into the circuit's famous opening chicane, Variante Tamburello, realistically the circuit's most viable overtaking spot. Its old-fashioned narrow racing surface means it's quite hard to make overtakes. It's always important to qualify well, but perhaps more so here at Imola than anywhere else on the Race Spec calendar. Before we touch on what will be happening out on track, there is a bit of news to go through first from the previous race in Shanghai. There were 6 incident reports submitted in, revolving around 3 incidents during the race. The first of which involves the 2 Sebastians, with the reserve Seb slowing down during the first safety car period to avoid a double stack and impeding McLaren Seb, or Spicy Salami as he's named currently. But as Reserve Seb points out in the reports, there's no rule against it, so no further action was the result. The second happens on lap 19, something we caught on stream with Luke Rockford punting Big Al at the turn 6 hairpin. The stewards deems Rockford at fault, and he was given a 5-second time penalty and 1 penalty point. He wouldn't move position though in the final results. The third incident took place on the final lap, with ACW and Matt Plevy banging wheels down the main straight. The two almost ran each other off the road, but ultimately both of them were able to finish, and the stewards deemed that no further action as well. In the Drivers' Championship, it's all wrapped up. G-Force Crichton out in front on 256 points. He's 115 in front of Matt Plevy in P2, who's on 141. Seb Spicer is next on 122, followed by Reserve Seb on 115. Grid Jokes rounds out the top 5 on 98 points. In the Teams Championship, it is Mercedes-AMG leading on 294 points, with Ferrari in P2 on 214. 80 points separating the top two in the Teams Championship. Now, with the amount of rounds remaining, we've only got 2 more rounds. There's still a number of points on the table, but mathematically speaking, it is possible for Mercedes to wrap up the Teams Championship here at Imola, but both Crichton and Eagle need a strong result here, and more than likely the one remaining Ferrari needs a bad result, and that is Ferrari Pro. I'm guessing Matt is not racing tonight, which is a bit of a shame. But that's it in terms of news, and it's timed perfectly because Mr. Leo Duncan's about to start a flying lap and take him on the tour, the 4.9 kilometres of Imola, around turn 1, up towards Variante Tamburello, turns 2, 3 and 4 on the racetrack. Nice and steady through here as we head up towards Variante Villeneuve, turns 5 and 6. This completes the first sector. Up towards the hairpin of Toza, turn 7, down to third gear. Get back on the power nice and early, try and get a good exit as we climb up the hill around turn 8 and now into Piratella, turns 9 and then turn 10. Down the hill towards Aqua Minerale, turns 11, then 12 and 13. A very tricky traction zone here, but Duncan gets through well. Up the back straightaway towards Variante Alta, one of the tightest chicanes on the calendar. Nice and tidy out of there. Most importantly, he doesn't invalidate his flying lap. Down towards Rivazza now. Hard on the brakes. Down to fourth gear. Clip the first apex. Around turn 18 now. It's important that you get a nice exit so you can carry as much speed as possible around the final corner and across the line. That's the benchmark for everyone else to try and beat. A 14.6. Nickman does a 6 himself. Grimmy on a lap making his way through Piratella. Ferrari Pro making his way up through 12 and 13. Warren jumps to the top with a 14.5. He goes a 10th quicker than Duncan. Levi's in the 14.6s as well, only just though by 1,000th of a second. Eagles invalidated his first flying lap. Grid Jokes crosses the line and jumps to the top by a decent margin as well. He's done a 14.1. T-Mac on a lap, making his way out of Variante Alta. He's heading towards Rivazza. Bags Liddell making his way towards Piratella. Very easy to invalidate through here, especially if you carry too much speed through turn 9. You can understeer out wide, down through Aqua Minerale. Very tricky piece of track, as Bags promptly demonstrates. Very easy to get it all wrong and just overshoot that uphill chicane. Swayze Salami, not on a proper flyer. G-Force Crichton is recently crowned champ, invalidates out of turn 17, so this lap won't count. He will finish it though. Up towards the line, he'll set a 16.5, so not at all a great lap then. I'm quite surprised that he didn't just bail and go back into the pits, quite frankly. Apollo Pepsi invalidates, I think, just then. Didn't notice he had a red track before turn 11, but there we go. That's his first flying lap attempt ruined. Through Piratella goes Eagle. Keeps 2 wheels on the correct side of the white line. Through Aqua Minerale, up the hill through 12 and 13 and onto the back straightaway. Variante Alta, you have to touring car your way over. Look at that, clobbering the curbs. He clobbered too much, I'm afraid. invalidating his flying lap. Prezzo on a lap himself, making his way towards 12 and 13. Gets through here nice and tidily, making sure he doesn't invalidate, and making sure you try and get a good exit out of 13. So you carry as much speed as possible through, but rather heading up the back straightaway and heading towards Variante Alta. Down the hill towards Ravazza. These corners, they look innocuous, but trust me, these corners, they can catch you out. You just have to slip a little bit wide and boom, there goes your lap. Prezzo sets a 15.7. Polo, still pushing. Somehow doesn't invalidate there. Had all four wheels off the racetrack. Apparently purple to the first sector is Big Al as he heads towards the final two turns on the racetrack. Entry speed 303 kilometers an hour. Apex speed of just under 130 at turn 17. Nice and tidy. Heading on to the main straight. Al will set a 13.8. He takes provisional pole by a decent margin as well over grid jokes. ACW P3, Ferrari Pro P4, Warren rounding out the top 5 for the moment. It's pretty tight once you take out Al, but Al's well clear at the top. Still got a lot of guys to set times. T-Mac out on track, same with Bags Liddell. I think Prezzo just might be on a in-lap. Yes, he will be. So we'll go to T-Mac then. He'll be the first driver to attempt a flying lap. Got just over 10 minutes left in qualifying. It's a relatively short lap when you're on it, as you can see. Minute 13 up to a minute 15. So out laps and in laps don't take particularly long around here. But of course with the narrow racing surface, one thing that can impede you is traffic. And I'm wondering how much of a factor that's going to play out, particularly at the end of qualifying, when everyone's trying to get their final runs in. How big of a factor will traffic be? Up towards Variante Tamburello. Entry speed of 328 kilometers an hour. Down to 4th gear. Short shifts up to 5th. As he heads out of the opening chicane and towards Variante Villeneuve. 7th gear. Up into 8th. Down to 5th gear round turn number 6. As he heads up towards Toza. 3rd gear. Eventually reaches full power as soon as he arrived at the exit curb around Piratella. Nice and tidy. Down the hill towards Aqua Minerale. 7th gear. On the brakes, down to 4th. Back on the power. Car looks pretty stable, I have to say. Looks good. Sadie's getting well out of the way. Apparently purple to the mid-sector is T-Mac. Looking at a decent lap here as he heads towards Ravazza. Need to be nice and committed here. Don't want to use too much of the curb at the exit. He hasn't. He's kept his left-hand side wheels on the tarmac. Up towards the line now for T-Mac. Will it be a 13? Not quite. He does a 14.2. Goes 3rd fastest. Bags Liddell will complete his flying lap. He jumps up to P11 with a 15.4. Spicy. Through the chicane. Up towards Toza. Someone else has entered the 13s. That's Leo Duncan. He's done a 13.9. Less than a 10th behind Big Al's provisional pole time. And that's an invalidation for Spicy. Rain could be possible. There is weather around. For sure. Properly overcast. And if it does indeed rain, then the guys who haven't set times really do need to get a move on. Need to put something on the board. You do not want to start last here. This track, more so than a lot of others on the F1 calendar and on the Race Spec calendar. You've realistically got one genuine overtaking spot at Variante Tamburello, and that's about it. Everywhere else, it requires huge commitment in order to try and pull off an overtake. Certainly not impossible, but you need a lot of commitment. You need a lot of cooperation as well with the guy you're battling with. Back onto the main straight for Eagle. He's going to put a time on the board. It's going to be a 14 flat. He goes 3rd fastest with that time. Spicy Salami making his way out to Tamburello. He's not pushing though. Polo Pepsi is pushing, making his way through Variante Alta. Now towards Ravazza. You can see a bit of traffic in front. A slow moving Alfa Romeo. I'm going to assume it's Al. Oh dear, that was shocking. That was indeed shocking. And it is Al. He's going to get a huge pen for that, I'm sure. Had no idea Apollo was arriving at Ravazza. Apollo did really well to avoid having a massive accident there. Did really, really well. Man, that was very dicey. While that was going on, ACW has taken provisional pole with a 13.7. Al's down to the first sector by 1/10. Roscoe Arm making his way through the chicane. Nice and tidy through there. Like I said, you really have to touring car your way over those curbs. Can't be too shy to cut them because there's so much time you can gain through there if you're cheeky with the curbs. GeForce Crichton has invalidated another run. He did a 14.0 just behind his teammate in terms of lap time, but obviously it doesn't count. Ross goes to 12th position with a 14.9. Dada not on a proper flyer. He's invalidated this run. So who's next then? I guess we go back to Al. Will he improve? The answer is yes, but only by a little bit. By 18 thousandths, he stays in P2. As it stands right now, the top 5, ACW, Big Al, Leo Duncan, Eagle, then Grid Jokes. So not bad. Not bad at all, but we still got 4 guys. We've yet to put times down. I know with Dada, with Crichton, with Seb. I imagine they'll get themselves towards the top 10. I imagine Apollo would be fired up after what happened on his previous flying lap, so he might be able to jump up into the 10. Crichton, he'll go back into the pits, I'm sure. There we are. 4.5 minutes left in the session. He's realistically got one more run that he can put together. Hello ACW, nice to see you're at the top of the board at the moment. Let's see, Mr. Warren, you're not on a proper flyer. He's very low on fuel. In fact, he's completely out of it. So he'll be going back into the pits. He should have enough time to put together one more run. You can still see it is very, very overcast, but no rain just yet. T-Mac out on track, Ferrari Pro out on track. Eagles just ahead of them. Keep our eyes on Apollo then. Just under 4 minutes left in qualifying. This is the tricky thing about going this early at the end of qualifying. There's a decent chance you'll have to put up with traffic, and Apollo at the moment hasn't had a great history with traffic in this qualifying session. As you can see, there's some cars moving out. Got an Alpha, that would be Grimmy. The Haas would be Grid Jokes. Got an Alpine moving. Thankfully, though, traffic appears to be minimal. So Polo begins what could be his final flying lap of this qualifying session, and he still hasn't got a time on the board. Towards Tamburello. On the brakes hard, down to 4th gear, back on the power, up to 5th, 6th gear, out of the chicane, up towards Villeneuve. Flat through 5 on the brakes, down to 5th gear. Oh, and he invalidates. It didn't look like he went wide or cut too much. I'm quite surprised he got pinged. But there you go. Evidently he pushed that a little bit too far. The game said no, can't do that. Eagle on a lap, currently P4 with a 14.0. Needs to find a decent chunk of time to try and take provisional pole. Down the hill. Towards Aqua Minerale. On the brakes hard, down to 3rd gear, back on the power. The car looks good. Car looked really good through 12 and 13. The clock reflects it, but he's only up by a little bit. There is traffic though. Off the road go both of them. Is that ACW? It was. The Haas, I assume, would be Grid Jokes. How much of a distraction did that give Eagle as he heads through Ravazza? Onto the main straight, up through the gears. DRS open. He will improve a 13.9. He stays P4. T-Mac on a lap, heading up towards the finish. He jumps to a 14.0, improves by almost 0.2. P5 provisionally. Grid Jokes making his way through Tamburello. ACW in hot pursuit. Through Villeneuve. Really chucking it through there. Up towards the first split for Grid Jokes. He's up by 0.002. ACW, he's not on a proper flying lap. He's not pushing. We've still got yellows out in Sector 3. He's only got a minute left on the clock. He should have time to do one more attempt. Should have time. But again, traffic will probably play a part. One car ahead. Mercedes-Benz of who I assume is Eagle. Oh, it might actually be Crichton. No, it is Eagle. Interesting. He gets out of the way. That's good stuff there. Good alertness. Around the penultimate corner. Up towards the final turn now. Grid Jokes. Will he improve? The answer is yes. P5 is his with a 14.0. Duncan beginning his final flying lap. Up towards the first sector split. The clock says he's up by 22 thousandths. Al making his way towards Villeneuve. 7th gear, down to 5th, back on the power, up towards the first sector split. He's up by 2.5 tenths. ACW, he'll have one run to try and string this together. Through Villeneuve, up towards the first split. The clock says he's up by 41 thousandths. Al's on a big lap here. Warren retires. He's done that in the pits. Onto the back straight away now, up towards the middle sector split. The clock says he's lost time. Up by only a tenth now. As Dada jumps to the top with a 7.73. Al needs to find time here in the final sector to just try and secure pole position. I'll be curious if Crichton puts down a time. Where will he go? He goes to the top of the board with a 7.01. Can Al respond? Oh, he only improves by 81 thousandths. P3. And ACW's invalidated his final run. Grid Jokes is done. Apollo's in the 10. Had a feeling that might have motivated him, what happened earlier, and it has. So there we go, right at the death of qualifying. Crichton put it together when it mattered. Pressure was on. He dealt with it well. Look at that top 4. All of them in the 7s. I wonder how much Al is kicking himself though. He was massively up in the first sector. So, at the end of qualifying, it's Crichton on pole with Dada P2. Al 3rd, followed by ACW. Leo rounds out the top 5. Eagle P6, followed by Grid Jokes. T-Mac, Apollo, Pepsi. Zach Warren rounds out the top 10. And we have Ferrari Pro, Nickman, Levi, Roscoe, Grimmy, Prezzo, Bags Liddell, and Spicy starting from the back in 18th place with no time on the board. He's got a ton of work to do from 18th on the grid. There we are. Another qualifying session in the books. Another tight session too. Top 14, just under 9/10 of a second. Good stuff. Slightly overcast conditions then here at Imola, but some blue skies, so we're not anywhere near intermediate conditions, but if those clouds do get worse, might have a chance of some mixed weather during the race. That will certainly shake things up. If it remains dry though, I'll be curious to see what kind of race we get. I imagine DRS trains are going to play a decent part in this one. Only a single DRS zone, but it's very powerful. It's a very, very long DRS zone down the main stretch here at Imola. I'll be keen to see how this all pans out. Here we go then. Everyone's lined up on the grid. We have 5 red lights. And we're underway here at Imola. It's a nice start from the front row. It's a great start from Crichton. He should lead the field towards Tamburello. But look at the midfield. Spreading out. Trying to find pieces of racetrack to drive on. Through the first chicane we go. 2 by 2 mid-pack. As we head out of the opening chicane, Crichton still leads. Dada second. Followed by Al in third. Look at these fellas further back, giving each other a hard time as they head through Villeneuve. A big slide there from Nickman as we head around Tozer now. Up the hill towards Piratella. Have a look at the tyre situation, shall we? We have a fair few drivers on the hard compound. A number of them on the mediums though. I'll be keen to see how they claw their way up through the order, if it's possible. There's the possible race strategies. Pit windows lap 15 to 20. It's a field head towards Variante Alta. It's all line astern stuff right now. And it will be for a decent majority of this race. Spicy making up a few spots from 18th to 15th on the grid. A bit wide for Ferrari Pro. But he holds position. Out in front, it's a great start from Crichton on the medium compound tyre. He needs to try and break away. I think that would be ideal. Dada in the slipstream. He's got pace. He's having a look, but not fully committing. We'll just let Crichton lead for a bit. The 2 Astons change places. Spicy gets in front of Nickman. That's for 14th place. Yellow's out. It's Nickman in the Red Bull. He rejoins, but he's now down in last. Crichton out in front, 0.6 of a second is the margin. He'll continue to extend that over the course of the lap. Through this incredible technical section, he'll be able to build time. Build that gap over Dada. For Dada, it'll be critical for him to stay within that 1 second range when they begin lap 4. Or rather end lap 3, that'll be the first time he uses it, if he stays within a second. Look at this midfield pack, everyone tightly bunched up, but nowhere to go. And with everyone pretty much on the same strategy, there's no real reason to be super aggressive just yet. Up towards Variante Tamburello. Dada closing the gap, but he won't go for it. He'll just stay behind there. There's the proof. On the side of the shot. Dada just sticking with Crichton for now. Not trying to race him just yet. Just trying to stick with him. Play the longer game. Bit of a gap forming between Levi and Apollo. Ideally for Levi, he needs to be within that 1 second range. Look at the battling further back. Spicy, Grimmy, side by side, wheel to wheel, as we head up the hill towards Piratella. Spicy with the inside line. Grimmy with the better grip. He has the car in front. He's fully in front now. Keeps P13. That was hard fought racing. Oh, a bit of a slide on there for Spicy. Caught it well, but lost a little bit of momentum. Through the chicane. Down the hill towards Ravazza, running wide as Roscoe arm. Hopefully that doesn't give him a warning. Dada with DRS now. I have a feeling he will just try and stay behind Crichton. Yeah, he will. He won't go for it. Nice big lift as well. Heading into the chicane, making sure he pulls the car up appropriately. In fact, they're creating a gap to Big Al. Gap's increased to almost a second between P2 and 3. Al just needs to Keep his head screwed on. Make sure that gap doesn't balloon out too much. He has closed down the gap. Just a little bit, down to 7/10. Needs to make sure it doesn't get too big. Leaders flinging it through Piratella, giving it everything. Everything they need to give right now. Not overdoing it. They're all just driving pretty smart right now. Leo hasn't made massive aggressive moves. Has he moved up at all? No, he's maintained 5th place start. He's just holding firm right now. Further back, Grimmy and Seb. It's a tight battle here for P13 on the racetrack. Seb would dearly like to get by, but look at the Alpha's top speed. It's mighty. Pulls away from the McLaren. And that'll frustrate Seb a little bit too as the Astons change places. He knows he's got probably better lap time speed compared to Grimmy, but it ultimately doesn't matter in the race. He needs to try and find a way by, and he won't do it down the main straight. He needs to be a bit unorthodox. I reckon he thought about making a move there at turn 7. Just had a brief look. He decided not to go for it. He's now setting up a run. He's looking down the inside, heading towards Piratella. But again, Grimmy has the dominant line. And Spicy has to pull out. And to be honest, I don't think Seb will try and do anything for the rest of the lap. He's not really in a position to do anything unless Grimmy makes a mistake. See here through Variante Alta. Everyone gets through pretty well. A nice run though from Seb. But even if he gets by down here at Ravazza, Grimmy will just pass him again down the main straight. So ideally for Seb, he needs to do it in the first sector or somewhere in the middle sector and try and create a bit of a buffer between himself and Grimmy. Got the battery turned on here. Grimmy, I think he turned his battery on just then to keep the McLaren at bay, and might have a go at the Aston Martin in front. No, he doesn't. Stays behind. So this might be Seb's opportunity to try and pass. If he can set up a move with the two Astons in front, might be able to get through. No, he won't go for it at Toza. And he doesn't have the run out of the hairpin either to have a crack at Piratella, so he'll stay behind for a bit. We'll go back to that. The leaders, everyone line astern, just minding their own business. Through Variante Alta. Al's very close behind Dada. 54% battery he's got. Turn on the telemetry. There it is. Dada, just a bit less than that. Definitely in a comfortable state right now. Crichton, he's looking pretty good. Up in the 70s right now. He's using the pace of those soft tyres. Making sure he keeps those two at bay. Making sure he himself doesn't make any silly mistakes. Through Tamburello. Leading trains snaking their way through. Nice aerial shot here. See all the grass and gravel that line the edges of the racetrack, so if you make a mistake, there's no recovering it. Get in the grass, get in the gravel, you lose time. Lose your tyres for a bit too. Dirty tyres. Always need to be wary of that. Onto the back straight. No one in any kind of position to battle it out just yet. It's going to be a patient game here at the front. A game of strategy. I'll be very curious to see who gets it right. Could probably note as well, the conditions haven't changed all that much. You still see there's a lot of blue sky. There's a decent amount of cloud cover. Try and keep our eyes on that throughout the rest of the race. See if we do get any wet weather interference. Seb close. But again, look at the Alpha's top end. He's pulling away incrementally from the McLaren through the chicane. Yeah, for Sebi's just, he doesn't quite have the car to try and get by. He's having a proper look though, down the inside. A little touch, I think. Now he gets in front. Remy's responding though with the battery. Looking round the outside at Piratella. Can't quite send it in. Spicy was too far ahead, unfortunately. Now Spicy needs to get a move on. Try and pull away. Grimmy just needs to keep his head screwed on. Try and get some solid exits out of this chicane, Variante Alta. Oh no, that's a poor run. That's an equally poor run for Seb. But I think Grimmy lost most of all. He's now fallen a bit into the clutches of Roscoe in 15th place. As Liddell passing Prezzo, that is for 16th in the field. DRS Open. See, he's got the better top end. The AlphaTauri or the Alfa Romeo? And it appears to be the Alfa Romeo. Because Seb got by at turn 9. He was able to create a gap and pull away from Grimmy, who's now under some serious pressure from Roscoe. I was going to segue into the fact that Spicy's been able to hang on to P13 because of the work he did on that lap. Grimmy's got his hands full with his Alpha. He's trying to keep the AlphaTauri at bay. At the front of the field, Crichton still leads. As Dada and Al right on his gearboxes. Al makes a mistake. Running wide there. Lost a little bit of time, but loses no position. Around Ravazza. Fourth gear, nice and easy on the throttle. Driver's flirting with the gravel trap on the outside there, getting nice and close. ECW having a look at Al here. Round the outside. No, Al shuts the door. Oh, and Leo was sideways. He was proper sideways. Entering Tamburello. Managed to straighten his Williams out. He's got Eagle directly behind, but he should be no threat right now. Yellow's out. I think that's Ross, is it? It is. It's one round at turn 1. Did he and Grimmy come together, perhaps? Or did he do it on his own? I'm not sure. He's down in 17th place. 3.7 seconds behind Prezzo in 16th. The drivers are turning up the wick just slightly. We've still got a long way to go. It's only lap 10 of 32. And I have to admit, the conditions are getting worse. You can see there's a lot more cloud cover now. The blue skies have disappeared. Yellow's out. It's Prezzo. He is the wrong way. That's a technical term. As he now gets himself back in the right direction. He's down in 18th, last place. He'd just be hoping to survive at this stage. Very lucky to not put it into the barrier at a corner like Piratella. Very easy to lose it completely and end up in the wall. Prezzo kept it on the track. That's the most important thing. Roscoe is boxing. Interesting. Is this for damage, or is this saying screw it, let's try something different? Appears to be a screw it call. He's putting on medium tyres and he's going to send it. Prezzo's going to do the same. Eagles and grid jokes, 3-second time penalty. My word, look at all the pens. All nice and bunched up next to each other. So, oh, and around goes Apollo. Into the wall he goes, damaging his front wing. That tricky traction zone, man, through turn 13. It's a nasty bit of work. Car snapped away from Apollo, tried to catch it, but ultimately he ended up in the fence. Big man arriving on the scene. He should pass the stricken AlphaTauri. cuts the track to just try and get himself out of the way, I would think. Crichton and Duncan are in for their one and only pit stop. Crichton onto a set of hards. Duncan should do the same. He peels in. Away he leaves. Kind of cool seeing a number 5 on the Williams again. Very nice. Nickman will move on through. So Crichton hasn't got a clear track ahead, but he'll be able to push as hard as he needs to. Try and maintain the race lead. I'll be curious to see where Dada and Al will come out once they make their pit stops for the medium compound tyre. And how early will they box? Current numbers, they going to do around, I'd say, oh, running wide goes Eagle. They're going to do around, I'm going to say 18 to 20 laps on their hard tyres. Box for mediums. Of course, weather might play a part. Pointed out the clouds already. Now Dada, ton of battery in hand. Al with a ton of battery in hand. How hard will these two battle each other? Yellows. It's Bags Liddell off the road of Rivatsa. There goes Leo. He's rejoined. Tyres shot to bits. He'll stay out. He won't bother boxing. He's got no damage on his Red Bull. Deary me. It's Crichton. Goes down the inside. Moves up into 12th position. Hickman down to 13th. These two have been going back and forth for a bit. Spicy P10 hasn't made any advances on the two Astons. That would have been close to a warning there. Using all of the curve on the outside. Or Eagle as well. In the corner of the shot, using all of the curve on the outside of Variante Alta. Down into Ravazza. Dada just extending a small margin, 7/10 over Al. But Al with all that battery and DRS assistance, that gap will shrink quite considerably heading towards Tamburello. Look at it shrink. It was about just over 7/10. It's under 3 now. That's how powerful it is as Grid Jokes moves up to 5th position. Roscoe gets a 3-second time penalty and Grimmy goes into pit lane to get off his mediums. The Astons collide and around goes Warren. Through goes Seb. Warren down to 10th place. Got plenty of clear track to work with though. He'll get going. But he won't be impressed with what happened between himself and his teammate. Grimmy making his way out. He will have clear air as well. There's Roscoe Arm. I'll be quite curious to know as well if these two came together. They were next to each other on the track when Ross brought out those yellow flags at Tamburello. But on 3-lap-old mediums, yeah. You'll have the advantage right now, but in a few laps, I imagine they won't be much better than the hard tyres that Grimmy just put on. T-Mac getting in front of Grid Jokes, who's pitting. This is early. Seriously early. As Dada gets overtaken by Al. The Alfa Romeo moves into the race lead. So yeah, pitting quite early for those mediums. Grid Jokes and Ferrari Pro. Makes sense for Ferrari Pro, even a bit further back. Might try and get decent size undercut on those tyres. Try and gain track position and hold on later. But Grid Jokes, he's going for a podium, I reckon, pitting that early. He's got decent clear air. He's behind Nickman and Leo. So Nickman will be his first major concern. He's on 14-lap-old hards. Well, very interesting in terms of differing strategies. And will we see any of these guys respond at the end of this lap? Yellow's out, Ross is out, and we have a VSC. Well, ain't this just dandy? A perfect time for the leaders to duck into pit lane and move on to the medium compound tyres. That almost goes into the back of Al. Well, ain't that just a miraculous piece of timing? Everyone moving on to the mediums as you'd expect. Crichton, will he come out in the lead though? He's got the battery turned on just briefly. He will. He'll have one almighty task trying to hang on to the lead on those hards compared to those behind on fresh mediums. Leo following Crichton as early as he did, down in 7th place because of the VSC. DRS is enabled, the green flag is out, we're back under racing conditions, proper racing conditions. It's going to be an interesting fight at the front of the field. 2.1 seconds is the gap. The only little note everyone should try and remember is that these guys on the mediums, they're going to do about half the race on these tyres. Unless, of course, we have a late race safety car, which is entirely possible. If that becomes a thing, then everyone will pit for soft tyres for the final stint. But as of right now, Crichton is at a massive disadvantage. Oh, that was like... He has got a massive disadvantage in terms of tyres. For Al, he's got a disadvantage in terms of DRS. Dada moves through. Eagle moves through on T-Mac as well. That's for 5th place. Look at that gap shrink. 1.5 seconds now. Crichton, I have no idea how he'll hang on. He'll probably lose positions. He might try and stay in the leading train if he can, but yeah, frankly, he won't have the pace. You'll need to get a bit crafty, I imagine. Grid jokes. Applying the pressure here to Leo as we head through Aqua Minerale and then into 12 and 13. Getting great drive out of the chicane, but he's got nowhere to go. Oh, he's having a look though. You have to be real brave to have a dive bomb there at Variante Alta, and Grid Jokes wisely backs out of it. That there was a correct decision. If you go side by side through Variante Alta, it usually doesn't end well. Eagle with a 3-second time penalty. Dada closing the gap. Eagle setting a new fastest lap. Not much separating the top two. Grid Jokes gets by Leo. Dada can't get by Crichton just yet. But with the sheer grip of those medium tyres, he's going to have a go here. Not quite. Certainly have momentum to have a look. Similar to Variante Alto, if you go side by side through Variante Villeneuve, it usually doesn't end well. So Dada wisely backing off. Now Eagle and T-Mac have caught up to the leading 4. Now have a leading 6. I imagine Grid Jokes is getting a move on as well, trying to catch up. Yeah, Crichton's properly stuck. Worst tyres. He won't have DRS either down the main straight. Real chance he'll lose 2 positions. If he's unlucky, he might lose 3. Let's see. Round Ravazza. Out of turn 18. Alright, so Dada should get by. DRS open. Battery turned on. Crichton moves to the inside for turn 2. I reckon Crichton's using that battery. Just a little bit, down to 51%. And amazingly, he's only lost 1 place. Shows you how much speed he's got in the Mercedes. Al unable to find a way by just yet. Doesn't go for the dive bomb. That's quite impressive then from Crichton. Probably used a decent chunk of his battery down that main straight. Try and stay even with Dada for as long as he could. But I have a feeling he will fall victim to Al shortly. Through the chicane. Crichton built a little bit of a gap out of Variante Alta. Going to try and line up a nice run out of Ravazza. Turn on the battery, turn on DRS, and here he comes. He'll move through. T-Mac gets by Eagle as well. Here comes ACW. Oh, it's tight between Crichton and Al. ACW, he wisely backs out of it. He was going to try and follow Al through. But Al and Crichton making a little bit of contact and unsettled the pair of them. ACW said, nah, I don't want any piece of that just yet. Wisely backed off. Got 1.2 seconds the margin between himself and Al. Al's got a bit of work to do. Try and cut the margin down. ACW. Through Aqua Minerale. Up the hill through 12 and 13. T-Max looking pretty quick in his Williams right now. Oh, getting real close to the back end of the Alpine too. Pretty low on battery by comparison. 19%, 35 for ACW. Crichton on 27. Right on board with the big man himself. We head onto the main straight. DRS. A little bit of battery usage as well from T-Mac. ACW moves on through. Here comes T-Mac. He's got momentum. Not enough though to have a crack at Tamburello. Crichton down to 4th. Not a great run through the chicane for Crichton. Prezzo gets a 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings. Bit wide there from Crichton. Huge understeer at turn 6. We head around the hairpin on turn 7. Nickman getting in front of Grimmy. That was for P13. Up the hill through 12 and 13. T-Mac looks quick, particularly through the mid part of the lap. He's just got nowhere to go. Probably stuck behind Crichton until he gets some DRS. Try and slipstream his way by. And in front, Al's cut down the gap. It's half a tenth between the top two. Not using DRS though. He has it available to him. But he's not using it. T-Mac gets by Crichton. Eagle gets by Crichton. Crichton down to 6th. One driver left, and that's Grid Jokes. He will get by shortly. And Crichton will fall to 7th. Realistically, he shouldn't fall much further. Four tenths of a second, the margin between the top two. Al playing a slightly more conservative game. We saw earlier he wasn't using DRS against Dada down the main straight. He just wants to stay behind for a bit. Maybe try and conserve a bit of battery. On 56% compared to Dada, who was on 19. Keep in mind as well, ACW is still in this. 1 second behind. He will still get DRS, but he is very low on battery. Down in single digits. Get DRS here. He's still using up that battery. Wants to try and hunt down the two in front. Using a bit of DRS this time around. Closing the gap, but not going for the move. Eagle gets by T-Mac as well. Grid Jokes moves by Crichton. Grid Jokes, he will have his sights set on the two in front, T-Mac and Eagle. Around the hairpin at Tozer. ECW is now putting himself properly into this fight as Eagle makes a small mistake out of Tozer. Down the hill. Through Aqua Minerale and then the chicane. Leo, a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Through Variante Alta. Eagle. That's another penalty. I think he has 6 seconds now. No, he has... Whoa, he has 12. Holy moly. I thought he would only have 6. No, he's got twice that. He's got a lot of pens. A lot of the field with a lot of pens. In terms of shuffling up and down the order, biggest winner appears to be Spicy from 18th on the grid. He is inside the top 10. Not a bad performance considering this is Imola. Biggest losers, Apollo Pepsi down in 16th place after his spin. And Crichton as well, down 6 positions because of a unfortunately timed VSC. Of course, unfortunately is a matter of perspective. I reckon these fellas out in front think it's very fortunate. Out of turn 13, onto the back straight. Ferrari Pro now. 3-second time penalty. I think he already had one. Yep, he's up to 6 now. Ooh. I wonder how long this kind of gamesmanship will go on for. I don't think the guys out in front are racing at 100% just yet. I reckon ACW was pushing at about 100% to try and get himself into this kind of position. But he himself is probably backing off a little bit just to try and get some of that battery back. And he has. He's already up to 20-something%. So, doing a pretty good job recovering what he used up to try and get back to this top fight. But you can see Al's in a great position. 80-odd%. Dada at 30%. Which might be enough depending on when Al decides to go for it. I mean, you can only play conservative for so long. Eventually, you have to pull the trigger and go for it. Spicy, a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Bags pits in. Saying screw it. Gonna put on soft tyres and go for fastest lap. Nando's put a bit of a gap over Al, 7/10. Won't break him away, not by a long shot. And even if he did, Al's got enough battery to just cut the gap back down anyway. The RS Open on the Alfa Romeo. Gap was just over 7.5 tenths. He's not using any battery, Al. He's already cut it down to half a second. 4 tenths. 3 tenths. That is ludicrous how much time you gain with DRS. Almost half a second. And that wasn't with battery either. That's how powerful it is here at Imola. Makes a huge difference in terms of outright lap time and outright speed. How hard will these fellas fight? I theorised back at Shanghai when we had a similar battle that they would absolutely go for it and chaos would ensue. I was proven wrong. But with Shanghai, it's a slightly more raceable circuit. You have a few more overtaking spots to try and get stuff done. But here at Imola, you've got significantly less areas And those areas that are 50-50 in terms of making overtakes work, well, if you make a slight mistake, it could be game over. So I'll be very curious to see how hard these fellas will push again. Al's just staying behind. He's playing that longer game. I think as well, Cruyff still in with a shot for a top 5 here. Around Toza. I reckon Al will go for it at 3 to go. I reckon. You wouldn't want to go too late. Give Dada the opportunity to try and strike back. So I definitely don't think he'll do it on the final lap. I reckon he might go for it, maybe 3 to go. Try and use up that battery. Try and do 3 qualifying laps in a row. Get by, do the quality laps, try and hang on to the lead. And he'll have the battery to do qualifying laps. On to the main straight once again. We begin lap 28. 5 laps to go. Here at Imola. Al's closing the gap, but again, he just stays behind. Playing the longer game. And for these guys further back, they're kind of reliant on the top 2 battling hard for them to try and gain position. They're stuck in the middle of a DRS train. They can't do anything right now. Except wait. Wait for something to happen. Wait for the opportunity to come. Yeah, to think this guy's still on for a top 5 because of pens. I'm sure he'll take that. Onto the back straight towards the chicane. Clobbering over the curbs. Everyone getting through. When will Al go? When does he finally blink? Can Dada do anything in response? DRS open. Closing the gap, not using the battery just yet. He has a look round the outside, heading into Tamburello. He gets in front. Al now leads here at Imola. Will he start using the battery? Not yet. Just holding the lead for now. Dada needs to switch on here. Needs to make sure Al doesn't break away. Needs to match him minimum. Duncan gets by Ferrari Pro. That is for P8. So we head through Piratella down towards Aqua Minerale. 4/10 the margin. Up through 12 and 13. Dada's got battery himself now. He's got 70%, which I do think is enough to at least match Al. Because Al, of course, won't be able to use all that 100% anyway. Still not using any of it. Not daring to touch it. Not yet. Round Ravazza. Polo with a 3-second time penalty. Back onto the main stretch. Half a second the gap. Al's still not touching that battery. 3 laps to go. Dada shuts the DRS. T-Mac moves through on Eagle. P4 is his. Out of Tamburello towards Villeneuve. Ferrari Pro and Leo going back and forth. Ferrari Pro back in front in 8th place. There's the penalty situation. Top 4, no pens. Crichton in P7, no penalty next to his name. Eagle with 12. He's had a shocker with track limits. Grid Jokes has 3. It ain't much, but it will hold him back. Pretty much cements him in 6th place unless something happens here right at the front. With the amount of laps left, we won't have a safety car either. This is it. It's going to be green from here to the checkered flag. Al and Dada, they're pulling away. Yellows are out. It's Apollo. Around at Tamburello. Rejoins down. 15th. Long way behind Remy. So he'll be staying there in that position. Dada closing the gap. He will not go for it though. Oh, that's tight between the top two. Dada's waiting for the last lap pass. He won't go for it just yet. Duncan gets back in front of Ferrari Pro. So they're continuing their battle for P8. Around Toza for the second last time. What kind of gamesmanship are we going to see? Will Al try and... Oh, that was lag. It looked like Dada understeered massively there at Piratella. It was just a bit of lag. Half a second. Al's using up that battery now. He's using bits of it. Dada might... Oh, and running wide is Al. Oh, he's just lost a whole chunk of time. Running wide is Eagle as well, as he gets another 3-second time penalty. And through goes Dada. Perhaps a deliberate move. So then Al will get some DRS here down the main straight. Both drivers will dump every bit of battery they have left. Here we go. 4.5 tenths is the gap. The last lap begins. Lap 32 of 32. And look at the McLaren. It has DRS. It has DRS. Al does not. That might have just secured it for Dada. I thought Al deliberately backed off to give himself DRS, but no. DRS was given to Dada instead. Oh, Dada losing a little bit of ground through Villeneuve. There you go. Dada has a real shot of hanging on to the race win here. Just needs to keep it on the tarmac. Do not make any mistakes. He's got it in the bag, surely. Unless Al goes for the mother of all sins. He is right on the back of the McLaren. But frankly, he's got nowhere to go. He's lost a ton of time through 13 as well. He's got one shot. It's at Ravazza. He needs to send it. He's got a good run. I don't think he's close enough. He has to bomb it in. He doesn't. Too far away. He's right on the back of the McLaren. But it matters little. Dada heads around the final corner to take the checkered flag and win the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Al home in second. ACW will finish on the podium in third. T-Mac fourth. Crichton will round out the top five. That'll be another step closer to wrapping up the team's championship for Mercedes. They'll be very close to completing it, especially considering there was only one Ferrari competing tonight, and it finished behind both Mercedes. But I don't think it was enough to mathematically secure it, not just yet. There we go. A tight finish. Slightly unexpected final lap with the race leader himself having access to DRS. There you go. Spicy, given driver of the day. Fair enough. It's now time for the podium celebrations. Well done to Wash Dada. He wins here at Imola. P2 to Al, P3 to ACW. The unofficial results then of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Dado wins from Big Al in P2 and HCW completes the podium places in third, less than a second separating the top three at the checkered flag. T-Mac P4 followed by Crichton in 5th and Grid Jokes P6. Eagle 7th, Ferrari Pro 8th, Levi 9th with Spicy rounding out the top 10 after starting from last place. Warren P11 followed by Nickman, Grimmy, Liddell with fastest lap, I might add. Apollo, Pepsi, Duncan, Prezzo retiring on the last lap. And Roscoe, only legitimate DNF of the entire race that brought out the race-changing VSC. I know, a fascinating race. When it came to gamesmanship, everyone was patiently waiting, just ticking the laps off, waiting for the right moment to fully send it right at the end. It would have been very curious to see how strategies would have panned out if it weren't for that VSC. But that's racing. Sometimes those kinds of things happen and completely change the complexion of the race. But another race, another week in the books. Don't have long now until we reach the season finale. Don't have long at all. But I think with everything said and done, it's now time for us to end the stream. Congratulations to our top three and congratulations to Dado on winning the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. I've been Lane Everingham. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for round 11, the penultimate round of the championship at Miami International Autodrome for the Miami Grand Prix. Until next time, it's goodbye.